Hello guys, welcome to a new video of the first World Chess Championship 1886. It's Wilhelm Steinitz against Johannes Zukertort, and today we're looking at game number 18. So only 3 games left. Steinitz is up 7-5. Can Zukertort make a comeback? Let's see what happens in this game. Steinitz has the white pieces and he starts with e4. e5 by Zukertort, knight f3, knight c6, and bishop to b5, the Spanish or the Ruy Lopez. Here knight f6, the Berlin defense. And in this matchup we have seen castles and knight takes e4, but Steinitz goes for the anti-Berlin with d3, so you cannot take the pawn now, d6 and c3, making way for our bishop perhaps, but also preparing d4. So g6, since the bishop is trapped here, we want to bring it to g7 or h6, and now d4 immediately. Well, is this not a hanging pawn? Well, if you take the pawn, we have d5 and your knight's actually pinned. If you try to save it with a6, bishop a4 and b5, we have bishop to c2 and you're going to lose one of the pieces. So that's why here we don't see knight takes e4, bishop d7, getting out of the pin. Knight b to d2, defending our e4 pawn, and bishop to g7. Here pawn takes. Very important here to take with the knight, since if you take with the pawn, we would have bishop takes, and knight takes e5 being up a pawn. If you try to get the pawn back, we have queen a4 check. So that's why here we see knight takes e5 and knight takes e5. So it looks like a free piece, but if you take the piece, we have knight takes f7, forking the queen and the rook. You have to take with the king, and queen b3 check. So a lot of rich tactics in the position. So after knight takes e5, we see pawn takes e5, queen to e2, defending our bishop, and simply castles by Zukertort. So what now? Steinitz can also castle here, which is the best move, but he wants to play aggressive chess, f3. Since okay, we are weakening those dark squares, but we're not really interested in castling. We want to play g4, h4, h5 and attack your king side. So what now? a5 by Zukertort, gaining space on the queen side. Bishop drops back to d3 and queen to e7, connecting the rooks. Well, perhaps better here is knight h5, knight f4. But okay, queen to e7. Knight to f1, rotating the knight to those dark squares, and bishop to e6. Zukertort had played bishop c6 earlier in their matchup, but then you're just looking at this brick wall. So bishop e6 is definitely an improvement. Now g4, and Steinitz is starting his kingside attack. But if you look at this position, black has almost all his pieces near his king, so what are we really threatening? But okay, rook f to d8, Zukertort's not worried. h4. And queen to d7, threatening winning the bishop. So it drops back to c2, and now h5, the best move by Zukertort, since here you cannot take the pawn, then we have knight takes and you're actually helping black. So you have to play g5, in which after knight to e8, you haven't really accomplished anything on the king side. Now the play continues on the queen side, knight to e3. Queen c6 and c4 by Steinitz. A really nice move, since after knight d6, knight b5, we want to bring the knight to d4, but the b5 square is now defended by the pawn. And also we want to play knight d5, and after takes, we have this really nice pawn structure. So c4 is a really nice move. Knight to d6, attacking the pawn 3 times now. So we have to defend it 3 times as well. Rook a to b8, preparing b5, but now knight to d5. And here perhaps the best move is queen d7, c6, kick away this knight back and continue playing. But here we see bishop takes knight. And that's not a good move, because this is actually what Steinitz wants. Now he takes the bishop, queen drops back, and now bishop to d2. And look at all the squares Steinitz is actually controlling here on the queen side. Rook goes back to a8, and rook to c1, controlling the c file. c6, trying to break open this structure, but simply rook to c5, a really nice move, attacking this pawn twice now, pawn takes and rook takes d5, pinning the knight to the queen. So the queen goes to a4 to attack the pawn and defend our pawn twice, since it was attacked twice. Simply a3 and b6. So what now? Bishop c3 by Steinitz. Everything is holding on the queen side, and we have some pressure on the central pawn. So the queen drops back to e8. And here queen to f2, now going after this weakness. So Zukertort has to defend it with knight to c8. But by playing knight to c8, we are giving away this control of the b5 square. So now the bishop drops into b5. You can see Steinitz is slowly improving his position move by move. Queen has to move to e7. And now rook takes d8, queen takes d8, and castles by Steinitz. Knight to a7, attacking the bishop. Well, the bishop wants to go to c4 anyway and plant itself on d5. So bishop c4. And here we see knight to c6 by Zukertort. And knight to c6 is actually a mistake, since here you had to find rook to c8 first, kick this bishop, and then knight to b5 to create some chances on the queen side. But by playing knight to c6, bishop to d5, you have to defend the knight with the rook. The knight cannot really jump into good squares here. It's better on b5, attacking the bishop. So what now? After rook to c8, Steinitz is controlling the queen side, so he starts operating on the king side again. f4, the best move. Queen d7, defending this pawn, and here f5. And you can see this getting really dangerous. So what to do? Well, maybe getting out of this pin with king to h8 or king to h7. Well, here Zukertort plays knight to e7. And knight to e7 is a huge mistake, since, okay, we are attacking this pawn, attacking the bishop, but the bishop simply drops back to a2, still keeping this immense pressure on the king. G takes, and now pawn takes. We can even fork you on f6. So what now? We have to move one of the pieces, and the position is slowly falling apart. We can win this pawn, but more importantly, queen f3, winning this pawn. e4, but simply queen takes h5. And Zukertort resigned the game, since it's actually checkmate in a couple of moves. Look at this immense pressure we have. Your rook is doing nothing, the knight's doing nothing, the bishop is very passive. If you try to defend this pawn, it's mate in one like this. And if you try to play bishop g7, it will be mate in two like this. This was a really nice game. I hope you liked this video. If so, please like, subscribe or comment, and I'll see you on the next video. Bye bye.